What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the Spyderco Drunken, and I gotta admit, I wasn't 100% sure that I would ever see this knife on my channel. No, this is not a stock clip. This is an aftermarket clip. We're gonna talk about that. This knife was sent to me by my good friend at Eric B. Like on Instagram. Give this man a follow. It's because of people like him that I'm able to bring you guys daily knife content. This is one of the Taiwan Spydercos. Now, I want to point this out because this is a topic of much debate and controversy, and I'm going to throw my 2 cents in. This is, first off, for anybody who doesn't know, the Taichung Taiwan, because people look at pocket knives and they go, made in Taiwan. Listen, for the most part, you're right. However, Spyderco's Taichung Taiwan plant is notorious for having some of the most excellent precision manufacturing and fit and finish that we see in the knife world. So they stand outside of that cliche, and I just want everybody to know that. This knife is made with premium materials. Knives that you pay $5 to $10 for that say made in Taiwan are in a totally different universe than what you're looking at here. That being said, I promise you I have some very potent opinions about this knife. Just want to remind everybody real quick that if you have an itch that needs to be scratched in this EDC world, you can pull down the description in any one of my videos, including the one you're watching right now. You can check out my merch at redbubble.com. You can check out my Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. You can check out my other YouTube channel if you don't want to hear my voice. That's Silent Complex. And then I've got a ton of recommendable knives sorted out by manufacturer. In some cases down here you can see my favorite budget knives. Really cool stuff. Lots of EDC gear and maintenance items. So if you've got a scratch, feel free to check out my description if you want to itch that. Anyways, let's go ahead and get some measurements on this guy. From tip to scale, you are looking at an 8-inch knife. Blade length's coming in at 3.5 inches, and cutting edge is also coming in at 3.5 inches, given the angle of the scale there and the curvature of the blade. How about some size comparisons? Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1's coming in at 8.6 inches overall, so you can see there it's a little bit, what is going on with the scales on the Rat there? Do you guys see that flickering? Huh, that's weird. Anyways, Rat 1's a little bit bigger. How about up against the Spyderco Pm-2? Spyderco Pm-2's coming in at 8.3 inches overall. I think this is a good, I think a lot of people want to know what this looks like up against the Pm-2. In terms of height and handle shape, I mean, in terms of dimensional space in your pocket, there's going to be some similarities. Dimensionally, in terms of thickness, I can tell you this guy's a lot thinner than the Pm-2, but there you go. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in the exact same overall length at 8 inches. So very good size comparison here. If you're used to the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, very similar in overall length. How about up against the Spyderco Para-3? Para-3's coming in at 7.25 inches overall. Another size comparison I'm sure a lot of people are enjoying seeing. How's the action on this guy? Well, let me get a flashlight here so you guys can see on the inside there. You can see there that here's the thing. I always kick myself before I do the review, because I don't want to, while I'm experiencing a knife, I don't want to look any information up. I just want to experience it. But one of those things that I always forget to do before I start the review is look up what it's actually running on. It appears to be running on phosphor bronze. It's incredibly smooth, and that's why I'm frustrated, because knives of this caliber, this is definitely outside of the normal realm of a high-end production knife. Even if they are running on phosphor bronze, the line gets blurred, and normally I can tell, right? But on something that's this precision made, it's so smooth, I'm like, is it running on bearings? I am 99.9% sure that it is running on phosphor bronze. Let's see if I can get back in there and give you guys a very close look. That appears to be phosphor bronze. Of course, I will look that up and clarify in a pinned comment if I end up being wrong. The action is incredibly smooth. Hydraulic, glassy, whatever you want to call that, it is frictionless. This is not a knife that I would, you can expect a drop shot action from. You can see there with just a little bit of encouragement, it will actually just, it's more of a wiggle shut. And that's very satisfying. When you can achieve that type of action on phosphor bronze, that's great. That's what I mean. For those of you who are not familiar with, and I'm not trying to be a snob, but anybody, I know there's a lot of new, like people who are new to the knife world who come into my channel looking for information. If you are wondering like what type of qualities make a knife cost so much, well, there's a lot of stuff. One of the things is tolerances, right? If the tolerances can all be achieved perfectly and you're getting smoothness in the pivot while the lockout is completely solid, that's great, especially when it's not running on a roller surface like bearings, right? It's running on a flat phosphor bronze surface. So achieving that type of action and at the same time getting solid lockup is really something special. So yeah, the action is great. I will say that on this Spyderco, you have room to do your thumb deployment, which is plenty easy, whether you want to slowly thumb it open or you want to sort of kick it out. You can do the reverse flick, but you have to do that thing where you sort of shift and cat's paw over it. It's not comfortable. This is not the same type of reverse flick convenience that you would get from the Spyderco Para-3 because there's plenty of room to get your finger in there. On this side, there's just not enough room because of the shape of the lock bar. You really have to dig, kind of curl around to get up underneath it. So it's possible, not the best in the world. Fans of the Spidey drop, again, you can do it, but you have less room to make that work. So anyways, let's go ahead and get a measurement of spine thickness here before we weigh it so you guys have an idea of blade mass. The overall thickness of the blade coming in quite thin. Yeah, it looks like probably almost exactly 125 thousandths. Let's put it up against a blade I know to be 125 thousandths, the Ritter Hogan. That looks to be exactly the same. So there you go. Oh yeah, let's talk about carry profile. I can tell you right now that this thing is just set up to carry well. How about thickness up against the Spyderco Para-3? You can see there it is actually a little bit thinner than the Para-3 in terms of height and how much room it takes up in the pocket this way. Again, it is 100% in my opinion better at maximum height. You know, you can see the Para-3 and Pm-2, two knives that nobody ever complains about and love to carry, have awkward carry profiles. So this one's going to be great in contrast. No big hump there to deal with. Not that I personally have a problem with it. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Let me move the iPad out of the way. And once again, the scale, I need to just put new batteries in this thing. Once again, my scale is freaking out, so we're just going to pull the batteries out real quick, put them back in, and turn it back on. Seamless transition, right? Just very adaptive. You're watching a very adaptive reviewer. Unit is what I'm looking for. There we go, ounces. Okay, so we're looking at a solid carbon fiber scale on one side. I don't believe that there is any cartridge liner on the inside, but I've been proved wrong before. Now you can see there, and it's actually, surprisingly, they have milled both the titanium and carbon fiber side. You're also not looking at a gigantic knife or any ridiculous mass or thickness in the scales or blade. So the knife is coming in at a completely reasonable 3.88 ounces, considering you are getting an 8-inch overall knife and a 3.5-inch blade. I think most people are going to be pretty happy with that. I personally don't have a problem with that. That's fine with me. Absolutely. So, what are we looking at here for materials? We're looking at carbon fiber, but you can see up close there actually has been some extra machining done. This adds some very, very nice to the touch texturing. This is nice. It's nice to look at. It feels great. I'm not going to say it adds any sort of meaningful traction, but it is definitely more traction than I would get on like a smooth carbon fiber surface or a smooth titanium surface, so I do appreciate it. The blade material is S90V, very, very edge retentive and also stainless. Not much to speak of in terms of toughness, but then again, this is not what I would call a hard use knife. I would say it's a very capable knife, and if you are somebody who's interested in purchasing this knife and using it outdoors, I think it'll perform just fine, but I think it's more to do with blade shape than the steel. This is a sheep's foot blade. You can see it sort of drops at the nose down to the tip. So despite the fact that it's made out of a steel that's not notorious for toughness, and it's not a super thick blade shape, I'm sorry, a super thick stock to begin with, I think the blade shape is actually going to yield more strength. I mean, in terms of like resistance to the tip snapping off, not that you should be doing anything that might cause that, but I think this knife is going to function just fine. Where the blade excels is just the general shape overall. You have a thin stock S90V blade that drops down to a nice thin cutting edge. This is definitely going to be a performer, which, you know, in terms of a Spyderco knife, generally Spydercos are performance to begin with. Even their least slicey blades tend to be pretty darn good in contrast to the rest of the knife world, right? That's probably over the line saying that, but this is a very performance-oriented blade. It also makes me think a lot like the Spydie Chef, and I know they've been compared. I would imagine this would be a decent knife for some food prep, you know. So if you are looking for sort of a knife that you can bring with you camping, I think that this would be a good one. Now, that's price aside. We're going to talk about price here in a sec. Yeah, what I very much enjoy about this and every other Taichung Taiwan Spyderco knife that I've handled that has this tumbling is the tumbling. This is the most beautiful tumbling that I've ever seen. And actually, for example, I very much enjoy the tumbling that's on the Spyderco Shaman. But I'll admit, the tumbling on this guy is actually more appealing, and it's different. It's a little bit more reflective. The little scratches are a little bit different. This looks more like a finished, I always say marble countertop, and then the Spyderco Shaman is a little bit more scratchy. What also is nice is how knocked down this all is. I mean, this is beautiful, right? This is the same type, I mean, I'll put it up against my Hinderer XM18. This is the type of finish work that I would expect to see on a knife like the Hinderer here. I mean, you can see there that these two blades, I mean, this is also an expensive knife, but you can see there it's the same type of making sure that all the corners are knocked down, and it's very nice visually and to the touch. There are no sharp edges anywhere on the blade except for the cutting edge, which I always feel compelled to say because there's at least one person who wants to crack that joke. Even on the inside of the hole here, which is sometimes, that's an area that's sometimes missed by Spyderco. No, it's very comfortable. Blade, perfection. Minimal billboarding. It says Spyderco CPM S90V. This is a Sienkiewicz design, which is something that I almost forgot to point out there. That was interesting to me when I looked this up before I did the review on the details on the when I was looking up price. I was like, oh yeah, this is a Sienkiewicz design, so that's kind of neat. And then it says Taichung Taiwan. I still have that part of my brain where I'm like, don't put Taiwan on the blade. I don't want that. And that's not fair because it's not like, you know, that country is 100% associated with subpar manufacturing. Obviously, that's not the case because we have a knife that has come out of that country that is made incredibly well. So that's just me having like I don't want to see that. I also don't like to see China on a blade. I also don't like to see anything on a blade other than USA because that's the country that I live in. So that's just something I should probably get over, but you know, whatever. Truthfully, I prefer that all blades be sterile over any billboarding, you know, but that's just how I think. Moving down to the pivot here, we do have sort of a, it's like a, well, in terms of a Hinderer, it would be battle blue. It's sort of a matte blue anodizing or like a blue jeans anodizing. Very nice, honestly, in contrast with the scales. Now, normally the pocket clip is also that same color, right? Some people are going to like that, some people aren't. I actually don't have a problem with it. By the way, guys, if you're wondering, this edge does not appear to be factory. This appears to be a custom edge. So yours is going to vary slightly, you know, from the factory. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the size of that hardware. Get out my handy-dandy Wiyet bit selector and Wiyet magnetic driver, two items that are very inexpensive. And remember at the beginning of the video where I pulled open my description, well, these two items are down there. I can recommend them to everybody. Awesome for breaking down your cutlery or other things that you might need Torx bits for. Plus they're 1/4 inch, and this is magnetic, so it's just perfect. The pivot is a nice T8 size. Actually, you know what? I think that's going to be a little bit bigger. Let's try. Curious. I'm curious to see if that is a T10. Give that a shot real quick. Yeah, that is a T10. Okay, so the pivot is a T10. Now, are the is this going to be a super weird one where it's T10 and T6? We're going in with a T8. Nope. Guys, that's so weird. That's this is going to be a T10 pivot with T10 body screws. Yeah, okay, that's weird. The body screws, you guys know, I mean, usually, I'm saying that's weird because normally it's T6 and T8 if they're going to do it like that. That's one of the first times I've ever seen T6 and T10, but okay, whatever. It's never a deal breaker. You guys know how I feel. I hate T6. They strip out easy. The bits, you know, even if you have a good quality set like the Wea set that I showed, there's still, the teeth are a little bit weak. If you have to break down your knife because you're using it often, T6 screws kind of suck. But again, not a deal breaker. Let's talk about ergonomics on this guy. The curvature is a little bit odd. The oddest part is right here. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm going to say it's weird. In terms of how locked in I feel because of the lines, yeah, I'm definitely locked in, and there's some nice functional jimping up here. I definitely feel like I'm in control of this knife. It's just this area right here that's just a little bit odd. All of the knife feels like it's made for my hand, except for this part right here. I would imagine everybody's individual experiences will be different, but I just wanted to kind of be honest with you guys. There is plenty of room to disengage that lock bar. I always love that. Seems like a silly thing, but it's very important because it also serves as the access point for the deployment mechanism, right? And for all of us who like to sit around and fidget, or for those of us who don't like to sit around and fidget and really only concerned with how easy the knife is to engage and disengage, this knife got it right. It's easy to engage and disengage both the lock bar and the area for the thumb hole. So that's great. The backspacer I think is awesome. It's got a nice little unobtrusive area for your lanyard holes, or I'm sorry, for your lanyards, those of you who like lanyards. And then I kind of like how it's flush back here and then it raises up a little bit and it's kind of got its own swedge going on. It's nice. It's an extra little detail that makes it stand out. You know, the whole thing we've got different lines here. The flat of the scales are here, and then there's some nice chamfering dropping down here. Everything is nice and smooth all the way around, but it's not plain. There's nothing, it's got a simple look, but then upon closer inspection, there's a lot of complexity going on. And those are the knives that I really like, because I like a simple visual. I want it to function, I want it to cut, I want it to be made out of nice materials, but I don't want it to be like this big, like, blah, you know, this like rainbow tectonic. I mean, truthfully, I do like looking at stuff like that, but that's not the kind of stuff that I carry, right? I like this, where it's like, oh, it's a knife. Ooh, there's some extra stuff going on here. And this knife is achieving that. This pocket clip was made by Mr. Adam Purvis, I believe. Is it Adam A. Purvis, you know, who did the production Zerks and custom Zerks, and there's a bunch of other stuff. But I believe this is his, he calls it his Black Timascus. Beautiful, and obviously in the shape of the original pocket clip. Or actually, maybe, is it reversed? Yeah. It is. It's actually reversed. I kind of like the angles here because it follows the angle of the handle. I kind of see what he did there. This one doesn't make as much sense, and that's really my transition point. Getting a pocket clip like this for your knife is very, very expensive, and the knife itself is expensive to begin with. So I can understand why you did that, Eric. But it's not something I'm going to say, yeah, definitely go out and do. But the standard pocket clip, I gotta admit, is the most boring part of the knife. In fact, it is very boring. This is a titanium. Oh, wait a sec. Guys, I'm stupid. I had it turned upside down. I'm wrong. The pocket clip actually does follow. The standard pocket clip does follow the lines of the knife. But in any case, this is an extremely boring pocket clip. I mean, it is truthfully kind of an afterthought. Now, I've read that it's plenty functional, except that, I mean, it's going to hold the knife to your pants, but there's almost no rise here at the end. So you really have to push to get it over your pants pocket. And I like knives where it's one hand, in and out of the pocket, right? I don't want to have to use my other hand to lift my pocket up so that a pocket clip can gain access to it. So the bill, in this case, normally I complain about the bill sticking up too high, like in the Guardian Tactical. I want it somewhere like this, like the MXG Deep Carry clip that I have on like most of my Spydercos. But this one is actually, it's one of the rare occurrences where it's going to just be too low. How it sits normally on the knife. I'll give you guys a kind of a look at that, how it's going to sit. You can see there's just it's not raised enough to allow for material to get up underneath it. So I can understand why people are complaining about that, and I can understand why Eric decided, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to pay some money and get a clip that I really like. The other side, you can see here more T6 screws, but that same sort of wavy texturing that's going on the carbon fiber, they continue it onto this side. Very beautiful. I want to point this out for those of you going, there's no steel lock bar insert. There is, but it's on the inside. You can see the screws are hidden there on the inside, and that's nice. I kind of like that. You don't have to see the screw right there. You do have another adjustment side over here. I have no idea if the pivot is free spinning or not. I'm going to guess probably not, given that this is a more modern knife. Anybody who's wondering, there is no shouldering here on the back, but there is a plenty large stop pin, and in combination with the steel lock bar insert, I think that's going to be just fine. No blade play whatsoever, very solid. It's the same thing that I always experience with the Taichung Taiwan Spydercos, and the lockup is coming in something around 50%, and the blade is absolutely perfectly centered. This knife is made insanely well, and it is very performance oriented. I do not like that it says Taiwan on the blade. That's nothing. You shouldn't even pay attention to that. It's a personal thing with me. It's something that I just need to get over. The body screws are T6. That's weird. Okay, whatever. This area right here feels a little bit foreign to me, but it does lock in very well. And the pocket clip, whether you go with the original or an upgraded one, if it's this shape, I would imagine is not going to be a hot spot. The actual stock pocket clip is an issue though. It's just weird. It doesn't go with the rest of the knife. It's kind of a slap in the face considering the overall price of this thing as well. So I really hate that. That's the biggest negative in terms of how it's put together. Everything else is great. Here's my biggest problem with this knife: the price. Here's my instinct when I pick this up. This is my instinct. My mind is thinking the least amount of money that this knife could possibly be is $280. The most that it could possibly be is about $350. I'm seeing this knife on the internet definitely over $400. Different retailers between $425 and $440. Oh, guys, I mean, like, I know I'm a biased Hinderer fan, but put this thing up against a Hinderer or a Chris Reeve? No. This is a fantastic knife. It is 100% a production knife, and it is made in a country where labor costs are substantially less, even given the fact that we have some above and beyond finish work going on a number of different things here. You know, blade, handle, things like that. This is a great knife. And those of you who have the money to spend on it, you're looking at it, you're liking the positive things that I've said about this knife more than the negative things, then you're probably going to be happy with it. But this is not a knife that I can openly recommend to people. It's just too expensive. There's just not, this just not, does not feel like a $440 knife to me. It doesn't feel like anything over $400. Like I said, at $350, yeah, I could see it. 300 to 325, yeah, that's probably feeling about right. $280, wow, that's a steal. Not 440, you know. My honest, this is honestly what I think. If you love this knife and you cannot choke down that price, my recommendation would be to find somebody in the knife community that you trust that's got one in great condition, and you know, purchase it for a fair secondary market price. Because again, this is a very well-made cutting tool. It's very premium, very finished, very polished, well thought out. You know, goes in the pocket well, carries well, and is going to be, you know, it's going to serve you well, you and your EDC needs, in a multitude of different circumstances, different circumstances. But yeah, it's too expensive. It's just crazy. So. Not my favorite knife in the world. The other, I forgot to point out, I wish, if there was one thing I would change about this, obviously the pocket clip. I could leave everything else, but this area here, I would like this line to sort of maybe curve, like the line for the lock bar to curve more this way so you could get more material on this side, and then you could cut this out a little bit more so that you'd have better access to the hole like on the front side. Maybe that's something that they couldn't do. Maybe they just didn't care. I like to do the reverse flick with the Spydercos, and I feel like a lot of other people do. That's something that I would have enjoyed. But again, I would deal with all of the things that I perceive as minor negatives on this knife if the price wasn't so, like, just, I mean, look, I'm not the end-all be-all. So you can disagree with me, but it's like, where did you get this price from? You know, carbon fiber is great. 3D milled carbon fiber, that's awesome. Milling on the inside, great. 3D milled titanium on the other side, great. Phosphor bronze, and it's got that glassy smooth action, awesome. The tumbling on the blade, beautiful. S90V, love it. Blade grind and geometry, fantastic. $440? What? No. I'm not there, you know. Great knife, want to emphasize that. Not my favorite knife in terms of price, definitely. In any case, though, Eric, thank you so much for sending this to me. I'm really glad that I got an opportunity to take a look at this. In any case, I hope you guys found this video, informative, or at the very least entertaining. If you did, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this metal complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.